Yuichiro Hashimoto tweeted that a PR that implements the first prototype for native HashiCorp testing was merged, and this is available in today, apparently, Terraform 0.15, but 0.15 is still alpha. So of course you're gonna have to brave the world and use the alpha. So as part of this, there's an example of how it's implemented and some documentation on it and considerations that they had when they wrote it. So it would be powered by a new Terraform subcommand of test. So you'd run Terraform test, and then you define the tests in HCL for how to invoke it. I haven't obviously had a chance to play with it much yet. They do talk about some of the other considerations that they looked at when designing this, such as TerraTest. Apparently Mart had been working on something in the form of a provider to prototype some testing over a year ago almost, I think, at this point. And now this prototype has made its way into the core. You would put your tests into a test folder. You can have collections of tests and run it. Looks like it's based on a new resource type, very similar to the provider that apparently Mart was working on. So you have an assertion you can make that evaluates the outcome of running some Terraform module. Now, this is a far cry from what you get with something like TerraTest. And I think this is a step in the right direction. And I think it'll help provide a greater baseline of testing for Terraform modules. But doing complex things like waiting for EKS nodes to join the cluster and validating that those nodes are ready, I have no idea how you go about implementing that, given this very limited way to express the test, just with assertions on it. Any thoughts on Terraform testing?
Is this static testing or dynamic?
I think I don't know actually what that means in this context.
Static would be it's only testing the code.
No, this is dynamic testing. It's actually executing it.
So I've run Terraform apply, and then I run Terraform test, and it looks at what's actually up in AWS or whatever.
That's my understanding.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Yeah. Lauren Gordon, regular in sweetops, I saw he posted some comment here. Sounded like a limitation a little bit. One thing I've run into one thing I've run into is tests of modules that use counter for each, and issues where the test config generates resources passed to those expressions. Is there a way to index? Is there a way the index or label cannot be determined until applied? My workaround has been to support a prereq config. I don't know. So the next announcement was also posted in sweetops. I was pretty excited about. It used to be that you could define globals very easily in the TFR files, and they decided that and those globals that you define, for example, in the TFR files, you didn't have to have had a variable defined explicitly in your HCL code. In Terraform 0.12, I think, or 13, they changed that to a deprecation notice, and that you had to explicitly define the variable, which on the one side is kind of nice. I mean, you don't want a bunch of variables necessarily in the TFR files that kind of communicate that you intend to do one thing and then the module does nothing with them and it has no impact. On the other hand, there are a lot of cases where it's convenient to copy in some globals, and you'll have like, what is our default region? Not everything needs to consume the region, but it's nice to be able to define it. And we've run into this with some of the recent work we've done with terraforming, using like Spacelift and Terraform Cloud, that when we specify some global setting that isn't consumed by the module, then we get the warning. So then we end up defining this no op variable just to get rid of the warning, and that's not much better. So this is going away in 0.15. It's no longer going to be deprecated. So I'm excited about it. Anybody have any feedback on that?
The only thing I'll say is having developed probably over 100 modules maybe in my Terraform career now that are published out there, the inverse of that would be really useful, to be able to run a command that tells me about variables I've declared that are not used anywhere in Terraform. Like, because I've done it like in an iteration of a module and then didn't remember to remove some variable that I wasn't using anymore. So I've kicked around the idea of writing a little utility to actually figure that out for, at some point.
I think tflint does that. I think tflint will tell you if you're if there's a variable that's unused, but don't quote me.
Yeah, I didn't have good success with getting it to work with, especially with like complex modules that do like interpolations and a bunch of like other things like that. It doesn't figure it out. So I was thinking about running something that just uses the actual HCL parser, parses the tree, and then like looks through to see if that variable is used anywhere once it's been parsed. But
tflint doesn't use the HCL parser?
It does. I'm just saying, like, I was thinking about just writing a small, like, purpose-built thing, but maybe I should just fix the tflint one instead and contribute that. That might be a good point.
I think that would be a good contribution rather than yet one more TF. Yeah, we got tfsec, tflim, tfm, tf.
True. Docs.
But hey, lots of small purpose-built utilities. That's what Unix is built on, right? Linux is built on. All right.
Do one thing well.
Do one thing well. In this case, verify all your variables are used. Pepe, are you on the call?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. So I saw your announcement in the Atlantis channel. A beta pre-release was released for Atlantis that adds the OPA support, Open Policy Agent. That's pretty exciting. So there's some basic way to apply OPAs on the Terraform plan output file, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And the behaviors it supports right now is just allowing or denying it based on that. Is there anything else you can do?
For now, yeah, that's what you can do. There's going to be added more features, but now you can. Now you can expand the restrictions of, for example, who could actually run certain things depending on the policy you use.
Oh.
So that could expand it to, like, not only, for example, a GitHub user or GitHub team, like the PR that is still open, that hopefully will get merged soon. But you can expand it to other systems that may pass information through Terraform that you can actually catch with the OPA policies.
And so I wonder what does that mean for the allow list PR? Maybe that's no longer really relevant.
Well, it depends, because depends on how you want to use it. For the allow list PR, it uses a GitHub API, which is cool. Is I guess easier entry than actually learning OPA and regular if you're not ready for that. So it depends of how you could do that. But I don't know if it's actually, I'm not 100% sure if that's actually possible just yet with this new release.
Yeah.
That's why we released it as a pre-release so that people can test it and give feedback, and then we can add more features to it. That's the idea.
Yeah, I think that's good with pre-releases, and it's distribute then with a binary, right? So that anyone, exactly. So it can just be tested right away. That's cool.
Yeah.
Anyone using Atlantis excited about the OPA support?
It sounds neat. I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I was just going to ask what, if we think that there might be future HashiCorp influence over this, since it's sort of directly in competition with Sentinel, and one of the main benefits for using some of their paid products. And given that they sort of own both, even though one's an open source project, but they have great influence over them.
That was the concern, especially when Luke and was I wouldn't say acqui-hired, at least started working for HashiCorp that put the future of Atlantis in jeopardy. And for the last couple of years, that jeopardy seemed to not be going so well. Now there is a contributor ecosystem around it, and multiple people have stepped up to help review pull requests. So maybe it will live on. At least, unfortunately, it's not under the HashiCorp umbrella. It is under its own organization called Run Atlantis.
I can actually answer that question. Actually, it was HashiCorp which allowed the fact that to add more maintainers to Atlantis.
Oh, it was.
So they are actually supporting it to be an open source project, and they don't want it to die either. So they are actually supporting the fact that we are, maintaining the project as maintainers. And so it's funny that I thought about that too when before I was added as a maintainer because I wanted to add those features, and I wanted to fork Atlantis. But then I was surprised to know that actually it was HashiCorp that basically facilitated this work, and they don't. I don't know if I could say this, but I would try not to. But basically, the answer is no. There's no reason why Atlantis will release a feature that could conflict with HashiCorp. They don't see it as a problem. So if you have code that a PR that you think that you can add and is similar to some other product that they offer, it doesn't matter.
Nice. Thanks for that context. I'm surprised that those
I can't help but be a little bit skeptical because of historical, Oracle with Hudson or
or Java.
Else. Yeah.
I mean, my comment basically was like, I hope that that's true, what you said, Pepe, but it's not a problem and it's not competitive until it is, and until it starts to erode, some of they get 10 large customers that say, why would I pay for that feature when it's free in Atlantis or whatever, and it starts showing up on their radar or whatever. Hopefully they're not going to be big evil corp, but they are in business to make money, so I don't hold out hopes that at some point that won't happen.
Embrace, extend, extinguish.
I think it's interesting because they're going to be running into lots of competition, or they already are in the Terraform automation market. Like Terraform Cloud already has some stiff up and coming competition. So now they're, if they're giving the thumbs up to the open source way of making that happen as well, then they're adding on to their competition market. So it's going to be, it's such an interesting space. I keep running into it all the time. And it's,
competition is good though, right? I think at this level, and I personally am less and less excited about Atlantis as I've seen the commercial offerings come out and just how much more polished they are compared to Atlantis. Then again, thousands of companies are happy with Atlantis. So,
given the fact that Atlantis has people like Pepe, is like when Oracle decided to mess with Hudson, Jenkins was born, and who uses Hudson now? Nobody. Everybody uses Jenkins. So
apparently, I saw some controversy about that. Apparently, the way it worked out is that Hudson was technically the fork. Was their position. I think that's how it worked, something like that. A couple other things that stood out to me in the notes of the alpha releases for Terraform 0.15. There's one thing that totally escaped me. I think it might even be available before 0.15, if not Terraform 0.14, is the ability to pass the chdir argument. I think this is a relatively elegant implementation for a problem that we ran into a lot, was not every sub-command of Terraform allowed you to run it from another directory other than the current working directory of the Terraform state. And now with the chdir, it allows you to run Terraform and have it apply the files in any given working directory. Or pass it to init, pass it to plan, pass it to apply, pass it to output, pass it to show, you name it, it works. The other stuff is, so while I think these...
Actually, can I ask a question about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So can you just clarify how is that different from first changing to that directory and then running the command there? I don't understand.
Oh, it's identical to that, except for the pattern you described requires some bash script or makefile to do that. And this is now embedded into the command for a one-liner.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. We ran into this problem because we were using it. Terraform supports the ability to... So we're not using this pattern anymore, largely because Terraform broke it in 0.13. But Terraform supports a number of variables that begin with TF. Yeah, you have the TFR, and then you also have like TF cli. Yeah, so if you wanted to set some backend, if you wanted to set some defaults when you call Terraform, like if you wanted to set the default bucket, like buckets, state backends in Terraform don't support interpolation, but that you can specify them on the command line. But specifying it on the command line all the time would be tedious. So you can set them as environment variables. So for example, if you wanted to set the bucket name dynamically, you could set this environment variable tf_cli_args init equals, and then the value. So this here would always set the backend to example bucket. I think that second dash there is actually a typo. I think I meant, no, actually that's right. No, so this is setting the tf_cli backend configuration for the bucket equal to example. A little bit of esoteric Terraform CLI knowledge there.
I'm just going to add another comment. One reason I'm happy to see this is we were using a paradigm where we have one repository and different environments for the application as subdirectories in that repository. So in our CI, we would have to CD into the environment directory to do all of our Terraform stuff. Now we could just, have the commands at the top level without, like you were saying, have to put some bash commands to CD into a directory and then do everything. And if you want to, proceed to the next environment, CD up and CD down again.
Yeah.
You can just do it all at the top.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's moving from this stop thinking about Terraform as a command you run strictly on your local workspace and think about it as a tool that you use for continuous delivery of infrastructure. And then you just want to run a command and have it apply a configuration, and you shouldn't have to do console type activity like CD.